There is a stretch of road in Pennsylvania, about 3 hours northwest of Philadelphia, that is actually on fire, not on the surface. On the surface, it looks like a road. Crumbling, yes. Buckled, yes. But walkable. 4 feet under the asphalt, the seam runs between 100 and 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to cook a shoe. Hot enough that at certain points along this road, if you crack open the ground with a boot heel, carbon monoxide rises through the fissure. Invisible, odorless, concentrated enough, in one documented case in 1981, to nearly kill a 12-year-old boy in under 90 seconds. The fire that is burning under this road has been burning since 1962. 63 years. Continuous. It will not stop. Geologists at the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection estimate, at the current rate, it will keep burning for another 250 years. And 5 people, as of this winter, are still living on top of it. Welcome to Hollow Atlas. Every episode, one real place. What happened there? What the record shows. What the record cannot explain. Tonight, the town of Centralia, Pennsylvania. Once home to 1,900 people, now home to 5. A coal seam fire that started with a trash pile and cannot be put out by any technology currently available to the state, to the federal government, or to the United States Geological Survey. And a question that has, quietly, been at the center of the Centralia story for more than 60 years. How did we fail so completely to put out a fire? The date is the 27th of May, 1962, the weekend before Memorial Day. The town of Centralia, population roughly 1,800, built on top of one of the largest anthracite coal seams in the eastern United States, had a problem that every small town in the region had in the early 60s. A dump, full, open pit. And a holiday weekend approaching when it would be overrun. The town council authorized a controlled burn. Nobody in the room that week appears to have considered, or, according to later federal investigation, appears to have mentioned, that the pit they were burning garbage in had been dug out of the side of an abandoned coal mine. The back wall of the pit was unsealed. Behind it, a tunnel system led directly into a live coal seam. The fire burned. It was, by all accounts, put out. Fire crews arrived. The flames went down. The surface cooled. A week later, the smoke came back. Underground, the fire had dropped through the unsealed rear wall of the landfill into the coal tunnels. And once a fire is inside a coal seam, with enough oxygen reaching it, and nothing to starve it of fuel, it does what fires in coal seams do. It keeps going. For most of the 1960s, the fire was, in the town of Centralia, a problem that someone was about to fix. State engineers came. Federal engineers came. Contractors dug trenches. In 1965, the state authorized a partial excavation, trying to dig down to the fire, expose it, let it burn itself out. The excavation ran out of money. The fire moved laterally into a second seam. In 1969, a second larger excavation was authorized. It also ran out of money. The fire moved again. By 1980, according to the U.S. Office of Surface Mining, the underground fire covered approximately 300 acres. It was roughly the size of a small suburban neighborhood, and at that point, Centralia was still a normal Pennsylvania mining town, with normal Pennsylvania lives on top of it. Church on Sunday. Elementary school, 3 rooms, kindergarten through 2nd grade. A bar, 2 diners. The Catholic cemetery on the hill. Most of the residents believed that the engineers eventually would fix it. They were wrong. On the 14th of February, 1981, a 12-year-old Centralia boy named Todd Domboski was walking across his grandmother's yard. The ground opened under him. The hole was approximately 4 feet across. It was 150 feet deep. Todd did not fall all the way in. As the earth gave way, He caught a tree root, a single root, exposed in the collapsing soil, and held on. His cousin nearby heard him scream, saw the hole, saw him hanging from the root, and pulled him out. The whole event took about 45 seconds, start to finish. When the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Resources tested the hole, within the hour, they found two things. The temperature inside, 4 feet down, was approximately 350 degrees Fahrenheit. The carbon monoxide concentration, at the level where Todd had been hanging from the root, was high enough that he would have lost consciousness in under 90 seconds. Another minute, and he would have asphyxiated. Another few minutes, and the tree root would have given way, and he would have fallen, unconscious, into a hole that at the bottom was hot enough to cook him. Todd Domboski survived. He lived a full life, mostly elsewhere. He died in Altoona, Pennsylvania, in 2022, at the age of 54. But the day he fell into the sinkhole was the day the state of Pennsylvania and the U.S. Congress finally understood what Centralia actually was. It was not a town with a fire under it. It was a town inside a fire, and the fire was going to take it. We are going to pause Centralia now, because something needs to be made clear about this place, and it needs to be made clear here. Carbon monoxide is a molecule of one carbon and one oxygen. It is colorless. It is odorless. It is only very slightly less dense than air. In a coal seam fire, in the specific chemistry of partial combustion of anthracite under low oxygen conditions, it is produced continuously. Inhaled, even at low concentrations, it binds to the hemoglobin in the blood approximately 240 times more tightly than oxygen does. This is not a symbolic fact. It is a chemical fact. Once carbon monoxide has bound, the blood cannot carry oxygen to the tissues, to the muscles, to the heart, to the brain, until the carbon monoxide releases, which takes hours. At mild exposure, concentrations you might breathe walking across a Centralia yard in the early 1980s, the symptoms come in a specific order. Mild headache, a warm feeling at the temples, a slight disorientation that the person experiencing it tends not to notice. At moderate exposure, confusion, mild visual distortion, a sense of being watched. At higher exposure, hallucinations, reports of figures at the periphery of vision. Auditory events, footsteps, voices, knocking. These are not symptoms of a haunted location. They are symptoms of the brain being progressively starved of oxygen. Between 1962 and 1983, before the federal buyout, Centralia residents reported, at rates documented by the Pennsylvania Department of Health, unusual sleep disturbances, headaches that did not resolve, a town-wide chronic feeling that people described variously as heaviness or as a sense that something was wrong that they could not name. These were attributed at the time to stress, to worry about the fire, to the long uncertainty of whether the federal government was going to buy the homes out or leave the town to be swallowed. But the chemistry of the seam suggests something simpler. Carbon monoxide in low doses across 20 years, silently delivered into the basements of an American town. You do not need a ghost to explain why Centralia felt unwell. You only need to understand what partial combustion of anthracite produces. That is the mundane layer. It is not comforting. In 1984, Congress appropriated $42 million to buy out the homes of Centralia. Most residents took the offer. The homes were demolished. The streets were regraded into the landscape. The trees grew back fast because Appalachian forest does what Appalachian forest does when nobody mows it. By 1992, about 40 residents remained. They refused to leave. The state, after years of litigation, eventually reached a settlement in 2013 with the last 7 remaining holdouts. Pennsylvania paid them a combined $349,500. Each of them received, in exchange, a life estate, the right to remain in their home until death or until they voluntarily left, at which point the state would take possession and tear the house down. As of late 2025, according to Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection records, 5 of those residents are still alive and still on the property. They are, by age, in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. They are, by temperament, the kind of people who, in 1962, did not leave when the smoke first came up. In 1981, did not leave when Todd Domboski fell. In 1984, did not take the buyout. In 2002, did not leave when the state revoked the town's postal zip code. They live on top of a coal fire that has another 250 years to go. And each of them, over the years, has given roughly the same answer when asked why. It is home. One building in the center of Centralia is still fully functional. It is the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary Ukrainian Catholic Church, built in 1911, decades before the fire. A geological survey conducted in the 1990s established that the church sits on solid bedrock, not coal. It is not in danger of collapse. It is not in danger of subsidence. The fire has not reached under it, and given the geological shape of the seam, it will not. The church holds services every Sunday. The congregation travels in from neighboring municipalities, former Centralia residents who have moved but still come back to the church they were baptized in. It is the one piece of the town that was never going to be taken, and the one piece that, in a sense, will outlive the fire. The cemetery is also still functional. People are still buried there. Former Centralia residents who left in 1985 or 1990 or 2005 return in death to the hilltop above the only part of their town that did not burn. There was, for 30 years, a 3/4-mile stretch of old Pennsylvania State Route 61 outside Centralia that the state had closed. The asphalt had buckled, subsidence, fissures. The road was unusable for traffic. Visitors, tens of thousands of them over 3 decades, covered the surface in graffiti. Murals, tags, memorials, jokes, political slogans. It became, by 2015, one of the most photographed pieces of informal public art in the eastern United States. In April of 2020, the state bulldozed it. Mounds of dirt 20 feet high were pushed over the length of the road to discourage trespassing. The paint is under there, all of it. The graffiti, preserved under dirt on top of a burning coal seam, is now